Hi and welcome to Quirky Books with Katie. Today I'm going to be doing my August wrap-up and September TBR video. So August was not the best reading month for me because it was mostly spent stressing over my summer work, but I managed to read a few books that I enjoyed, so now let's get started. The first book that I read in the month of August is Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, and this book is technically one of the first dystopians. It is about a society where technology is very present, and I'm not really going to give that much more of a summary about it because I feel like it is the kind of book where you should go into it not really expecting a lot, although I will warn you, it is very odd. It's not like most of the dystopians that you read, and I expected it to be a little bit like 1984 by George Orwell, but it wasn't really like that. And I ended up giving this book 1.5 out of 5 stars. I was really not a fan of this. The only thing that I really liked about it is I felt like it posed a lot of interesting philosophical questions, but I felt like the book was way too long, and I didn't really understand what the author was trying to accomplish with the book. The next book that I read is Free to Fall by Lauren Miller, and this is the Bookbusters pick for the month of August. In case you guys didn't know, I am a member of the Bookbusters book club. We read a different book every month and do a live show on it, so I will leave the Goodreads group down below. And this book is about a society where everyone uses this app that kind of controls everything. It's a decision-making app. Every time you need to make a decision, like, oh, what should I order at Starbucks, or what's the safest way home, the app will answer for you. And our main character gets accepted to this elite school, and she kind of learns that her life is not what it seems. Now, I thought that the concept of this book was very interesting. I love the idea of the app and kind of the circumstances surrounding it. Although it ended up being a lot different than I expected because I heard this book was a sci-fi, and I personally would not classify it as a sci-fi. I felt like it read more as a dystopian, and my main issue with this book was that the main character felt like the typical Mary Sue in a dystopian. You know, the girl who loves her world, and then all of a sudden something happens or a boy comes along and they realize, oh, my world isn't everything that it seemed. And I didn't like the main character. However, I did like the love interest, and I ended up giving this book 3 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. This is one of my favorite classics of all time. It is about kind of a star-crossed romance of sorts. It's very gothic and dark. And I really did forget how kind of screwed up this book is. It's not, I have a hard time describing it. It's just very odd, and it's not your typical romance. Like Jane Eyre, the romance is very messed up and odd, and I ended up giving this book 4 out of 5 stars just because I felt like the book kind of dragged on a little bit, but I would still recommend it to everyone. It is such a great classic. The next book that I read is Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover, and in case you guys did not know, I'm obsessed with Colleen Hoover. I've read 3 of her other books, all 5 out of 5 stars. Love it. Now, this book is about a girl named Tate, and she is a nurse, and she moves to San Francisco to live with her brother, and while there she meets one of her brother's friends named Miles. And Miles and Tate kind of get involved in this friends with benefits relationship, except they're not really friends. And of course, they start to fall for each other, crap happens, and love gets messy. Now, this book has a lot more mature content than Colleen Hoover's other books, just a warning. I'm not really a huge fan of a lot of that content, so I was not a fan of that in this book. But what Colleen Hoover manages to do that I don't think any author manages to do is that I am just so emotionally invested in her characters. Every single one of her books that I've read, I have almost cried. I've been close to tears. And I feel like this book does that too. My only complaint is that it took me a while to get into the story, but once I was in, I was hooked, and I needed to know what happens. And I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I cannot wait for Colleen Hoover's next book. The next book that I read is The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini, and this book is about Afghanistan and a pair of friends and a boy that eventually ends up moving to America. Now, I've been hearing amazing things about this book for such a long time. I actually had to read it for summer work, and I think I tweeted something and I just said, this is by far the best book I've ever had to read for summer work. And that is absolutely true. This is just such a beautiful book, and it's going to be a classic someday. I feel like it's already a modern classic. It's a story of love and friendship and fighting for what you believe in, and I loved this book, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Even if it's not the type of book you'd usually read, I still highly recommend it. The next book that I read is Two-Way Street by Lauren Bornholt, and this is a road trip book. It is about a guy and a girl, and they have recently broken up, but they made plans to drive up to college together, and their parents are making them keep this promise. And the reason that they broke up is because the guy cheated on his girlfriend. But as they make this way through this road trip, secrets get revealed, and the girl realizes that maybe her breakup wasn't really what it seemed. I liked this book at first. I thought it was just your average contemporary, but what I really hated was the ending. The ending totally rubbed me the wrong way. It was such an open ending. I felt like it was just one of those books where the author just chose to end it. There was no resolution, and I ended up giving this book 2.5 out of 5 stars. It was okay. If you like road trip books, then I would still recommend checking it out. And the last book that I read in the month of August is Isla and the Happily Ever After by Stephanie Perkins. Stephanie Perkins is the queen of contemporary. If you have not read anything yet by her, you must. This book is about a girl named Isla, and she attends the School of America in Paris, which is where the first book, Anne and the French Kiss, is set. And while there, she has had a crush on a guy named Josh since her freshman year, and they end up getting together. And what was different about this book than Stephanie Perkins' other books is that it did not focus on the chase of the relationship. Most contemporary books are about the couple getting together, and they end up getting together with about 20 pages left. And this book was really about the trials and tribulations of Isla and Josh's relationship. Now, I love this book. I know some people had some issues with it, and I did too, but when I was reading it, I just felt so happy. And I feel like Stephanie Perkins has this gift where you can read her books and forget about everything bad that's happening in your life and just be happy. And this book, I ended up giving 5 out of 5 stars. It was really great, and there's a cameo in a pizza parlor with a bunch of the other characters from the series that was just freaking fantastic. Now, I don't have a very big September TBR just for the fact that I know I'm going to be very busy with college applications, but there are a few books that I am dying to read. The first book is Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas. This is the 3rd book in the Throne of Glass series, and I am so pumped for this book. And even better is the fact that I am actually going to a signing for this that is going to be happening on September 3rd. So I am so excited for that, and if you want me to vlog that signing, let me know in the comments down below. I love vlogging, and I'd be happy to do it. The next book that I plan on reading in September is Falling Into Place by Amy Zhang. I am actually participating in a read-along for this, so if you want to read this book along with me and a couple other people, then I'll link the Goodreads group down below. This book is about a girl who drives her car off a cliff, and it is very emotional, and I have seen a bunch of reviews for this, and people absolutely loved it. Some people said it was one of their favorite books of the year, and I cannot wait to read this. And the last book I plan on reading in the month of September is I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson. This is one of my most anticipated books of the year. My friend Whitney sent me this advanced copy, so thank you, Whitney. I'm just so excited to read this. And this is the story of a pair of twins, Noah and Jude, and it is set in the today and then 3 years ago. Basically, there's a pair of twins that were close when they were 13, and something happened and they're not close anymore. Sorry, my phone went off. And Jandy Nelson is just such an amazing writer. I read her other book, The Sky is Everywhere, and just absolutely loved it. And I'm so excited to read this. I know I'm not going to be able to read it in school, though, because I expect that it's going to give me the biggest case of the feels. So let me know in the comments down below if you guys have read any of these books or if you want to see any reviews. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you again soon.